For more on Apple's results, let's bring in Fast Money friend Gene Munster of Deepwater Asset Management. Gene, your take on the quarter so far?
Quarter was a relief. Surprised to hear Tim, was thrilled to hear Tim give the guidance to Steve. That was rare, but the guidance for June, the revenue guidance, was also relief, essentially in line with the street, up 1.5% is probably where it's going to fall out. So that stuck out to me. And I think the near term, I put that through the end of the year, we have a business that was down 5% in the March quarter. It's going to be up a couple percent in June, about 4% in September, and 6% in December. And so you compare that to the last 8 quarters, where Apple's business has been down negative 0.3%. And so you see this kind of return to growth. It is comping off an easier iPhone cycle. So that was my biggest takeaway. And Dan pointed out something that is at the back of my mind and top of my mind going into this call. They did say, that Dan mentioned that correctly, as Tim Cook mentioned something in his prepared remarks so far on the call, that they're going to be making significant investments. And significant investments, we saw what happened to Meta with that. In my view, more spending on AI infrastructure is a positive, but that is what I'm eagerly waiting for on the call, is to hear how that spend is happening. So those have been a couple things that have pointed out. One more, Melissa. When we're trying to guess what they're doing in AI, what that's going to be about, Tim mentioned in the prepared comments that privacy is going to be one of their kind of foundation pieces. And that's important because it's a sign that they probably want to pursue a plan in this agent-based or agentic AI, personalized AI. This is you prompt it and it goes out and does a series of tasks for you based on a single prompt. Pretty exciting stuff. We may or may not see that in June, but I think that that's the kind of their long-term vision related to AI.
Let's say we don't see it in June, but we get a teaser in June for it, Gene. Will we see it in the next iPhone, next generation of iPhones, so that it will be a catalyst for sales? Or, as Dan had mentioned, will we see a whole cycle skipped in terms of, massive uptake of the new iPhone, and we'll have to wait, investors would have to wait for another year or so?
Well, Apple is fully on board with the opportunity around AI. I mean, it is a remarkable change in Tim Cook's prepared remarks related to it. And I think that speaks to how they're going to want to talk about their products. And I suspect this fall, it may not be called iPhone AI, but it's going to be iPhone 16 AI. And I think that they're going to make hay when they can and kind of play into this. It's not just hype. There's a ton of substance around it. And I expect that these AI tools, the initial ones, are going to be something simple like use your phone and ask Siri to book you an Uber to the airport, something like that. But I think that they will probably perform better on next-gen phones. And this is a really exciting time in technology. And I think that will be a boost to this next cycle. So I think that they're going to be playing it up as they should.
Let's assume that is in the next generation. Where does Apple trade from here, Gene? And do you think that 7% of the after hours is most of that excitement around the buyback?
I think the buyback's part of it, maybe a percent or two. I think the piece that surprised me most is that they essentially maintain their revenue guidance. Again, we'll hear the earnings in a minute, but that really surprised me. I was ready. I was expecting this was going to be flat. Some investors were saying it was going to be down a few percent in June. I think that was a big part of the kind of this move higher. They'll reiterate that in Luca's commentary. So I think that was probably the biggest piece. There is the case that as you're worried about, as I'm worried about what they're going to be spending in CapEx, the fact that they bumped up their dividend is a sign. I think Dan was commenting about this, is a sign that they probably feel great about their profitability too. So big picture is Apple's franchise, their business is intact. It hasn't grown for 2 years, but I think it's positioned to start to slowly accelerate and should have a nice benefit in 25 and beyond as they build these AI tools that they'll charge for.
Hey, Gene, if I think about this over the last few months or so, and obviously for Microsoft, it's much more than that. But, these three companies, Microsoft, Alphabet, and obviously Meta, have benefited from, something cloud-based generative AI, right? And so when you think of the hyperscalers, what's going on with GCP and Azure and AWS, obviously that's been a big boon for them. When I think about the generative AI story on device for Apple, I don't have the same through lines as how it benefits them, because you just used an example, hey Siri, book me an Uber to the airport. Well, we all have 10 years of PTSD using Siri. This is going to take a while, you know what I'm saying, for an Apple. And so I just don't think there's anything that they can come out between now and September when they have that iPhone event that's going to cause a big upgrade cycle.
I think one piece they can do, an easy piece they can do, is talk about silicon and play up that opportunity about how it just is going to run some of these models better. That's going to be some benefit to, I think, telling the iPhone story. But I think this other layer to it, the more important layer around applications, they're going to have to create products that are so compelling that makes people want to buy the hardware. They will, I think, be successful at doing that because of what they're doing around privacy and separately. So I think that's something else that could do it, and agree with you on how the world and myself feels about Siri. It's a pretty low bar, and people love Apple products, and I think they'll be willing to try it. If Siri actually did something for you, I think that would be a moment where you'd probably give it a big hug. Hug your phone. It's been so bad over the last 7 years. So big picture is I think they can sell both hardware, and then again down the road, this agent-based personalized AI, I think that they can actually charge just like GPT does. They have a free version, they have paid versions. Apple's going to do the same thing. So it's not the same as a cloud business. Agree with you, but it's big.